The jungle breathes like a living creature. Its heartbeat, slow, heavy, ancient, echoes through the mist that clings to the stone ruins of Copan. Night falls not as a quiet visitor, but as a devouring spirit, swallowing the last golden light of the sun. Somewhere deep within the canopy, a drum begins to beat. Low, hollow, endless. The Mayans believed that time was alive, an endless serpent coiled around the world. Every century that serpent shed its skin, and with it, reality trembled. To them, time was not a number. It was a god, and gods hungered. The final day of each Mayan century, the last night before the calendar round completed, was not celebrated. It was feared. For the world, they believed, might end and be reborn in fire. Villages would fall into silence. Children were hidden. Torches burned with blue flame made from sap and bone dust. The priests climbed the temple steps with trembling hands, their faces painted black, the color of death and rebirth. The air smelled of copal resin and blood. The stars above flickered behind clouds, as if even the heavens were uncertain. Because when the century ended, the gods would judge mankind. And if the fires were not kept alive, the sun itself might never rise again. Imagine the terror of a civilization so bound to the rhythm of the cosmos that every 52 years it believed the universe could collapse. Entire cities held their breath. No one slept. No one spoke the name of the gods aloud. When the last ember of the sacred fire died, the world entered the night of waiting. Only the high priests, chosen since birth and tattooed with the symbols of time, remained awake. They performed forbidden rites in darkness, whispering prayers in a tongue no mortal dared to learn. At the stroke of midnight, the final ritual began. A captive's chest was opened, and his heart lifted toward the stars, still beating, still alive. The priests believed that heart's fire would keep the cosmos from falling apart. But that night, legend says, the stars refused to move. The drums stopped. The wind vanished, and the priests looked up at the black sky, realizing something had gone wrong. Something ancient had awakened. The jungle fell silent. Even the insects, the eternal companions of night, refused to sing. The priests stood upon the temple platform, their hands slick with the blood of sacrifice, eyes lifted to a sky that had turned strangely hollow. Where once the stars shimmered like jeweled fire, now only a vast darkness spread, as though the heavens had been swallowed whole. The eldest priest, his voice trembling, whispered, "Kinich Ahau has turned his face from us." The sun god was gone. Below, the people waited, thousands of them, kneeling in mud and fear. Mothers pressed their palms over their children's mouths so the gods would not hear their cries. The sacred fire had dimmed, its last sparks fading into black ash. Then, a sound came, not thunder, not wind, but something older, a deep resonant moan that rose from the earth itself, echoing through the temples like the breath of a buried god. The priests panicked. One dropped his obsidian blade, and it shattered against the stone. Another tried to relight the flame, his hands shaking uncontrollably, but the torches would not burn. They said later that the air grew thick, so heavy that breathing felt like drowning. The jungle leaves shivered, though no wind moved. The moon glowed red, dripping its light upon the altar like spilled blood. A vision came to the high priest. He saw a serpent made of fire encircling the world, its eyes blazing with hunger. It whispered that time had ended, that mankind had failed to keep the divine balance. The priest screamed and threw himself down the temple steps, his skull splitting on the stones below. The people took it as a sign. Chaos erupted. Some fled into the forest, believing that the gods had returned to consume them. Others knelt and offered themselves willingly, pressing their faces into the dirt, chanting for mercy. But one woman, her name lost to time, stood and lit a torch with her bare hands, whispering the forbidden prayer of renewal. They said she did not burn, though flames surrounded her, and when her light touched the sacred fire pit, the flame was reborn. The stars blinked once more into being. The serpent of time coiled back into its eternal sleep. But deep beneath the temple stones, something had changed. The earth was no longer still. A heartbeat was growing louder. By dawn, the world was quiet again. The fires had been rekindled, the people still trembling as the first sunlight crawled over the temple stones. Smoke drifted upward in long, gray fingers, wrapping the city in a shroud of renewal and sorrow. They believed they had survived the judgment. The serpent had slept. The gods had been appeased. But in truth, something older than gods had been stirred. Beneath the temple, deep within the catacombs that even priests dared not enter, the heartbeat continued. Slow, heavy, patient. The earth pulsed with it. The walls wept with moisture, as though the jungle itself were alive and breathing. Centuries later, explorers would find carvings hidden beneath the altar, a story forbidden even in Mayan time. It told of the first dawn, when the gods forged the world not from light, but from the blood of a sleeping giant buried beneath the earth. The Mayans called him Kukum Kab, the heart of the world. They believed every 52 years, as time completed its cycle, the giant stirred. If men failed to feed him with the essence of life, if the sacred fire died, he would wake, hungry to reclaim the blood that made the sun rise. That was why they feared the end of every century, not merely for their gods, but for the earth's own heart, waiting beneath them in restless dreams. Some claim to have heard it in the stillness of midnight, a rhythmic echo beneath the soil, faint but steady. The villagers would leave offerings at the edge of the jungle, corn, obsidian, sometimes even the hearts of birds, to keep the great sleeper calm. But one year, during a drought that turned rivers to dust and cornfields to stone, the fires went out again, and when the priests descended to relight them, they found the catacombs warm, pulsing, and faintly glowing with red light. No one spoke of what they saw after that night. The city was abandoned within a generation. The jungle swallowed everything, temples, homes, bones, until only moss and silence remained. Even now, deep beneath the ruins, the earth hums softly. Some say it's just shifting soil. Others say it's the echo of that ancient heart, still beating, still waiting for the next turning of time. Because time, like the serpent, always circles back. And when it does, the world will tremble once more.